Listen, I did film and television studies at university for 3 years. I spent hours reading countless books and articles on subjects spanning from film all the way to television. Not a single one mentioned Hugh Grant once.
I achieved the hardest qualification across any university or college ever, a 2-1 in history. Let me tell you, the only thing that I learned was that we, as a society, have a history of denying and neglecting Hugh Grant's artistic and cultural relevance, not just in this country, but in the entire world.
I met Oscar at a Hugh Grant-themed event I put on at the Students' Union.
It felt as though Diggory and I were the only ones there, and we agreed that there was a Hugh Grant-shaped hole in academia.
We decided to put it right ourselves. We want to show people that he's an icon in acting.
We want to show people he's more than just a bumbling posh guy.
I'm Diggory Waite.
And I'm Oscar Beardmore Gray. And this is...
Taking Hugh for Granted.
Hello and welcome to Taking Hugh for Granted, the podcast in which two Hugh Grant enthusiasts watch every single film starring Hugh Grant in the attempt to answer the simple question: is this film taking Hugh for granted? Is this film good on its own, or does it rely on the bumbling Brit for its acclaim? I'm Diggory Waite, and I'm joined as always by my colleague and fellow Hugh Grant obsessive Oscar Beardmore Gray. Oscar, how the bloody hell are you doing today, mate?
Feeling a little deflated, Diggory, I think, as you are. We just spent 20 minutes talking about England's loss in the Euro 2020 final. Time of recording,
Yes.
the Monday after, the day after, and obviously being Englishmen, we came out on the losing side.
We certainly did. But well done to the Italians. Actually, on the bus home, there was a group of Italians playing music, and obviously our mantra in the UK has been "It's coming home," and they were chanting "It's going Rome," and so a woman was very, very angry with them and not very happy. And as she got off the bus, she was like, "The only thing that should be going home is you. You've had your fun enough." I won't say the rest of what she said, but yes, it was that was a long bus journey. Let me tell you that. But fair play to them. And yeah, commiserations to us and all the other English fans out there.
Yeah, I was watching with a group of, not even Italians, Spanish and French people who hate England, so therefore we're supporting Italy. And it was, I don't think I normally watch those games with people who aren't supporting England, so it was a little bit, it was sad, but hey-ho.
It's not surprising. I saw a map of Europe last night, and over every country was the Italian flag except England, and it had the England flag. And I feel that accurately. I mean, quite simply, we suck. We are like, our fans suck. We suck. Everyone hates England, and I feel like, that's what you expect.
There's a lot to hate apart from our players at the moment.
Yeah, oh God, yeah, I love those guys. And the manager, we like him, even though, people may say, oh, he did this wrong, he did that wrong. Gareth Southgate's a legend. The players are all absolute kings. But our fan base sucks. Our country and our government sucks. So
say it how it is, Diggs.
Why would you not hate England, particularly after Brexit? And then we're still swanning into the European Cup, being like, well, hey, let's go. We'd love to win this. No. Anyway, there you are. Blimey. Sorry, everyone. Because there will be English fans or English people listening to this, and they will have forgotten about this. It will have gone out of their brains. And 4 weeks later, we come along and we just dredge up all these horrible memories of how we lost. So let's move swiftly on and talk about the film today, An Awfully Big Adventure.
An Awfully Big Adventure, directed by Mike Newell and released in 1995. In 1947, a naive teenage girl named Stella, played by Georgina Cates, joins a shabby theatre troupe in Liverpool. The company, led by the mean-spirited but flamboyant Meredith Potter, played by Hugh Grant, put on a production of Peter Pan. After P.L. O'Hara, played by Alan Rickman, joins the cast as Captain Hook, Stella quickly becomes entangled in the theatre's web of sexual politics and intrigue.
So, Oscar, An Awfully Big Adventure. What were your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts is that this film should be renamed to either an awfully big disaster or an awfully shite adventure. Because
when you sent me a text earlier saying an awfully shite adventure, I did laugh out loud. I think that's perfect.
You know what, Diggs? This is not good, but we go through the films, and each time I'm like, this could be the worst Hugh Grant film ever.
I know.
This might have trumped our. What did we say was the worst? What did we say? Our Sons was the worst? No, we didn't.
I liked Our Sons. Our Sons was all right. Well, the Bengali Night. That sucks.
But this was pretty bad, mainly because there was just nothing about this film. There was it drones on and on and on and on. There's not really any plot or anything that keeps you interested whatsoever. Yeah. It has Hugh Grant. It has Alan Rickman. So from that point of view, you should be jazzed and ready to go. And to be honest, they were both actually quite good. And the film was still terrible. Yeah. I mean, I can't. You put it absolutely perfectly. I just kept thinking to myself, what is the hook? Like which is also that is no pun intended, because obviously Alan Rickman. It's a film about a theatre company, and they're putting on Peter Pan, and I'm saying, what is the hook? Alan Rickman plays Captain Hook, and Hugh Grant.
But
that was good.
And Hugh Grant at the end, that was good. Oh my god, that was great. It almost makes you want him to be Hook in. He would be amazing as Hook if they redid Peter Pan and they made it really like Paddington 2-esque.
He would be brilliant.
That would be incredible. Oh, that's another one to put on what we'd love him to do. But this film just has no hook. It's like, we think about some of the other films that we've reviewed recently. We just said one, Our Sons. A man has AIDS. His boyfriend wants to tell his mum, his estranged mum or whatever, and that's the hook. It's like, ooh, what's gonna happen there? What is the hook in this film?
There is no hook, because
there is no hook.
I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but the one sort of bombshell that comes in this film literally comes in at like an hour 45, and at that point, I've pretty much fallen asleep. I want to read you just a review that I found on IMDb, which I think... This is from 2001, by the way, so this is a 20-year-old review. Stands out pretty well. They title it, "The Worst Film I Have Ever," capitals, had the misfortune to sit through. I remember going to see An Awfully Big Adventure. It's an experience that has remained with me ever since because it is so horrifyingly awful. Possibly intended as some whimsical and poignant look at the theatre of yesteryear, this is a film that fails to engage on any level. Believe me, I'm much up for a piece of heavy cinema as the next art house fancier, but this really is pushing the levels of my patience. As one of my usually well-behaved friends said, when will this dirge end? The problem is that nothing happens, and by the time it does, you've lost all interest and possibly the will to live. I think that sums it up pretty well, basically.
That's exactly right. But also, it's almost so shit, it's confusing. It's so weird. The film, particularly like the first hour or so, is just it's this girl joining the theatre and these small little, almost like vignettes, like these little tiny scenes.
It's like episodic in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And she'll speak to this person, and then suddenly the scene will just abruptly end. Well, they're like halfway through a conversation, and then she'll be somewhere else, and you're like, okay, what's going on? And then now a new one started, and nothing ties these things together. There's like you say, there's no hook, there's no underlying plot. It's an awfully shite adventure. There was just like no other way to put it. You put it perfectly.
Peter Pan is pure make-believe. I don't want any truck with anything else. So children, unformed people, if you can't see the truth, give me make-believe. I prefer it. So don't give me any symbolic... Oh!
I think another thing that, from reading reviews and stuff, that pissed people off about this film is that it sort of lulled them into a false sense of security, because importantly, this film was directed by Mike Newell, who is of Four Weddings and a Funeral fame, and gave Hugh his big break. So a lot of people came to the cinema the following year expecting more of the same, and what they got is something decidedly different. This is like a sort of twisted, incestual, disturbing film in some ways.
Yeah.
It's very dark, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not really meant. I don't know if there's meant to be comedy, but the comedy, if there is any, is very, very subtle, and it's very black.
Yeah.
And yeah, it I mean, it's apples and oranges, isn't it? Comparing Four Weddings and this, and I think from what I could gather, there was a lot of like kind of press around the film that sort of tried to get the crowd who went to watch Four Weddings to come and watch this. You know, you got Alan Rickman, you got Hugh Grant top billing, and then you get in the cinema and you've got 2 hours of sort of dark comedy, which isn't even comedy. And I mean, it reflected in the box office. I think the budget was 4 million, and they recuperated half a million or something like that. So it was a bit of a disaster.
Oh God! I mean, it's I don't know. The films are so night and day, and it's weird because they just finished Four Weddings and a Funeral. I don't think they took a break. That's what I understand. They basically went straight from making that into making this. And similarly with Four Weddings and a Funeral, they did it so fast. They like filmed over like 30 days or something. And apparently Hugh Grant was saying like, you know, you wouldn't be like almost every day Mike Newell would be going, shit, how are we going to do this? And it would like, you know, it would be like, because the mad rushes. And there was even one scene that still made it into the film where they couldn't film, you know, usually actors, you film like me speaking, then you speaking, and you can like cut between the two. So it's like shows your face. They just had to put them up against a wall and film all four of them at the same time. It's all they had time to do. Like this was apparently a similar, they had to like rush everything. And I wonder whether that also took its toll. You know, they've just come off a really like hard shoot with that where it's like really quick and had to do it really fast. Similarly with this, but like it just feels like Four Weddings and a Funeral is just a nice normal comedy, you know, which is just so pleasant and like nothing wrong with the direction, nothing wrong with the acting, fine. And this is just the complete opposite, just like batshit off the wall. It feels like this horrible art house film that's really dark, not funny at all, non-consensual. And the thing is, right, is I don't want to come away and be like, you know, because there's a lot of weird sexual and a lot of like non-consensual activity that's going on here, which obviously is very off-putting and disturbing. But like, you know, sometimes there are films where and this takes place and films have to depict that, which is fine. I'm not saying I'm not going to be like, oh, every film that has that in, because, you know, you need to tell these stories, all that sort of stuff. This film though, it just feels weird and sometimes out of place. It just happens randomly. There's this girl and like random people that like we have no establishment of who they are, how she's met them. Just suddenly just take her hand. I don't want to go too much into it. It's just so bizarre and it's so off-putting. And if that's meant to be funny, I don't know. If it's meant to be dark, it has no meaning behind the darkness. There's no like reason for it, and so you're just left there going, okay, I feel uncomfortable, sad, and annoyed now. And this film is not a good viewing experience. I'm not entertained, and no thoughts are provoked. Where do we stand? This is just shit.
Well, you're listening to Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted on the radio. Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted. Oh, the podcast show.
But to the man of the hour, Oscar, what about, I mean, we've talked about a lot of the shit stuff in this film, but what about Hugh Grant?
Well, I mean, the irony of this film is that it's really bad, but Hugh is actually pretty good, I think.
Great.
Which at least makes it worth watching for us as Hugh Grant fans. I mean, he is brilliant whenever we watch these old films because you see the parts of his acting that are still reflected now. Because this film, basically, he's playing a theatre sort of tycoon director who is really a terrible person. He's awful to everyone. He treats people like absolute shit. He seems almost sort of like bipolar in his moods. He's sort of, you know, he's shouting at people one moment and then he's being really nice to them the next. And he's got like some really great costumes on. He's got he wears this crocodile hat at one point, and he looks very suave, and he wears a little monocle eyeglass thing, and he plays that kind of villain, horrible, nasty guy incredibly well.
Absolutely, yeah. It kind of, and also he kind of reminded me of his character in Restoration a little bit, maybe because of the costumes and stuff, and because he's a bit his character's a bit flamboyant and stuff. He's constantly smoking, but yeah, he's a bully. He's a mean bastard, but he plays it so well. And then at the end, he even gets to show a bit of his acting chops, where he has to fill in for Captain Hook when unfortunately Alan Rickman's character meets his end, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit. But was there a scene in particular of Hugh's that was your favourite, perhaps?
Yes, definitely, Diggs. It was a great scene towards the end of the film, so we had to wait a while for it. But there's a football match, which I think this is the first time that Hugh is depicted playing football, which I think is quite amusing.
Offside back here.
What are you offside? We're going to be offside.
The first thing an actor must learn is humility, Geoffrey. Remember? Thank you, John. I might have missed it.
Get some spectacles, Potter.
Geoffrey, leave it. Yes? Oh my God.
And I think in any film, if Hugh got biffed in the nose, he would react exactly how he does in this film, where he sort of falls on the floor, and then he's it's all about him. He's like, oh my God, oh. Yeah. His nose is bleeding just a little bit, and he's being the biggest drama queen you've ever seen.
You all right? I fainted, I think. Oh, God. I fainted. The pain was excruciating, so I did the best thing I could think of, and I fainted. Get me my coat, Bunny.
Jeffrey's got to go.
Get me my coat, Bunny!
Oh, it's so good. And he almost looks like a Renaissance painting, like a woman strewn across the floor with his hand above his head. And he just looks amazing. And like you say, I mean, drama queen is exactly the right phrase for it. That's exactly what he looks like. Again, one for us to tick off the list. It's great to see a great set piece like that, Hugh being biffed. And it was thoroughly enjoyable.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a shame that it was basically the only good scene of the film. But another thing I did want to talk about briefly, Diggs, is it's interesting again that we have Hugh Grant referring to a character as Bunny.
Yes, I did notice that. That's very, very weird. Another one for the universe.
So I think that
remind me.
Yeah.
I think that's the third time, but remind me what other things he says Bunny in.
A Very English Scandal and Florence Foster Jenkins.
That's it. And it's always this sort of term. That's why. So Bunny to him. Yeah, and so it's so weird. Like the way he says Bunny as well is always. It now just feels like.
It's almost like it was like his nickname at boarding school or something, or some traumatic experience that he witnessed of some kid getting bullied and he was called Bunny or something.
It almost feels like. I mean, this is a deep dive and a deep pull. So if anyone recognises what I'm talking about here, did you watch Doctor Who? This when it revamped and it was like Christopher Eccleston and stuff.
Not really.
There was this phrase that they kept saying in a few episodes here and there, and they just sowed the seeds so well, and then eventually, in the last episode of that series, it was like, guess what? Bad wolf means this, and it means that shit's about to happen, and blah blah blah. It was crazy. It kind of feels like Bunny is like that with Hugh Grant films, and it feels like you hear whispers of Bunny here and Bunny there. And I just feel like his last film, maybe he's going to be like, Bunny was this all along, and it was like this crazy. It was like,
I feel like So I don't know if this is true, but it's a bit like with Simon Pegg and what's his face, who they put a motif or something throughout their movies and see if you can spot it, like Where's Wally kind of thing. And with Hugh, it's like the
cornetos, Bunny. Yeah, exactly. Bunny, it could be it, and he sprinkles it throughout his films. Look over there, Hugh Grant's in a Pret. Look over there, he's holding a baguette.
Another interesting person we want to talk about, Alan Rickman, the man, the myth, the legend, R.I.P.
Indeed.
What do we think of Alan Rickman in this film?
he plays such a weird role. He's drafted in to play Captain Hook, like halfway through the film, and he's like one of the only guys that can stand up to Hugh Grant and Alan Rickman. So the girl in this is like a 16-year-old, which also, interestingly, the person that plays her, Georgina Cates, originally auditioned for this film. Her name was actually Claire Woodgate, and she auditioned as Claire, and Claire was like 20, 21 or something. She auditioned and they turned her down. So she went home, dyed her hair red, like created this person called Georgina Cates, this like 16 Liverpudlian girl, and then she went back to the casting thing and they cast her. And so she changed her name to Georgina Cates as a result. And so that's how her acting career began. How mad is that? So that's really cool, to be fair, from that actor. But another weird thing is, so she plays obviously this like 16-year-old who's just joined this theatre company. Alan Rickman takes a shine to her and they start having a relationship, which is weird already. You know, it's not great. And Alan Rickman apparently was really annoyed to find out that Georgina Cates had lied about her age, because she was in her early 20s, but stated, as I say, she was 16. And in order to land the role of Stella, because he'd gone out of his way to be extremely gentle around her during the intimate scenes because of her age. And only it was like on the last day of filming, they were like, oh, she was, she's not actually 16. And he was like, well, this feels weird now. Anyway, which adds to the sort of, I can't think of a better way of putting it, fucked up nature of this film. It's just weird. It's just fucked up. So they have this strange relationship, and basically, I mean, long story short, God, it's so odd, isn't it?
It was such a bombshell, because
it was such a bombshell.
I mean, basically, to be frank about it, Alan Rickman finds out that the girl he's sleeping with is his daughter.
Yeah,
it's just fucking weird.
Which it's just crazy, and through the weirdest way. And I had to pause the film. I was like, surely not. And it's because of like a picture he sees and blah blah blah. And you just think, okay, this is just weird. And Alan Rickman clearly thinks so too. And he like storms off. It feels like something out of Wuthering Heights. He like goes out to the port side, to the harbour, and he's like. And then this is very on the nose. He starts like walking up a plank, ladies and gentlemen. He starts walking up a plank and slips on it. And then goes in the water and drowns. And like sees a quick vision of his, of the woman and her child before he dies. I don't know why, I loved the scene in which he hit his head. I just watched that like over and over again. There's something about the way that it's shot and it's edited so quickly. It's like he slips, then the camera, like, it's so quick. There's like 4 shots in quick succession. I know I've taken this really seriously, but it's so interesting. Like, listen to the sound he makes when he hits his head. It's like... went and watched it really slowly, and it's just his face like, ooh, going really close to it. It's an amazing, it's just a piece of cinematic.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about, I mean, just small shots in a film that you really like, because I think that this film, people have come back to it because apparently it's on TikTok now.
Yes. Oh yes, because I saw in the comments on YouTube, everyone's obsessed with Alan Rickman. Everyone.
It's like people are just here for TikTok. Or
yeah,
like
exactly. So I wonder how that got out there.
I think it might be like you know in the way that like there's like the Hugh Grant Morris shot,
fan cams.
Yeah, it's like the fan cam shots, and there's a fan cam in this film, because to be fair, Alan Rickman, like, people were like, Dark Horse Alan Rickman, what a fucking great looking bloke in this film. Like, to be fair, he's looking pretty decent in this film, and I guess most people just know him as Severus Snape. So they don't,
exactly.
He's not exactly like the best looking bloke there. So
the looker. But this one, obviously, he gets his top off. He's in bed with. It can't be hot though. The person who's in bed with, it's just weird.
Talking of Severus Snape though, it is kind of funny that in this film, Hugh Grant's character is called Meredith Potter, and so he does say Potter a few times.
He does indeed.
Which is quite fun.
Exactly, very, very fun. I'm just trying to look. I'm just going to look here for some of these Alan Rickman things. People only just realizing how attractive Alan Rickman was. This man was straight fire and always was. It's weird, like, gatekeeping how hot you found him. I love how there's just this new wave of Alan Rickman fans and everyone is horny, says it someone else. Who else has been a simp of Alan for a while?
Sounds like a podcast opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, yes, definitely. You're so right. It's a new untapped market. What do we... what's the title, though? It's going to be hard, that one. Get
The
Alan...
Rickshaw.
Rickshaw. Get Alan Rickman rolled. I don't know.
Get Rickman.
Yeah.
Get Alan Rickman.
Get Alan Rickman. Oh my God. There's some horrible ones. I can't actually read that out. I will for you. Stella can literally call him daddy. Oh God. Oh God. I love this one from Olivia. He's so fine, it's ridiculous. She doesn't even say who he's talking. It's literally this whole comment section. They don't even need to say his name.
Are you on TikTok or just on YouTube?
I'm just on the YouTube video. Oh God, this one. I know he be packing. Who knew? This is incredible. Oh my word. Well, you know what? This makes me rate this film a lot more. Now I'm starting to think, actually, was this a great film?
If you just view it through an Alan Rickman lens,
yes, exactly.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it's the best film ever. Yeah. So Alan Rickman being hot as fuck, Hugh Grant being funny, and Alan Rickman's death scene, which actually I'm going to rate it, spoiler alert for Harry Potter fans, I'm going to rate it, I loved his scene when Snape died, and I might even rate this on a par. It's just as emotionally intense and amazing.
I also think that Hugh Grant and Alan Rickman actually had a couple of like quite cool scenes together. Like there was one scene where like Severus Snape, Alan Rickman was like close to the camera and Hugh was in the background and they were kind of like talking with each other, and I thought that was cool.
It was,
and Hugh like whipped out a few like cool accents with him, and like there was like definitely this rivalry. Now I'm like bigging up the film because it was still terrible.
Oh,
but, like,
it was awful.
that was.
Yeah, but now I'm loving it. Now, all of a sudden, the more we talk about it, I love that bit. And also, Hugh was like, because he sort of, because then Alan challenges him, being like, "You're being really mean to that guy."
And then he's like, "Mate,
you're sleeping with a minor.
Non-consensual sex.
Yeah,
that's not cool.
That's not cool." And it's like, "Ooh," he's like, "You wouldn't dare." Our new celebrity. Yes. God damn it. Great stuff.
Turn to page
394. So good.
Taking he for granted. Taking he for granted. Taking he for granted. What did you think, lads? Were they taking he for granted?
Right, Oscar. We've got to that time. We're coming into this. I thought I knew where we would land on this film, but we're coming into it actually on a jolly note on this film. Are we taking Hugh for granted?
You know what?
No way.
I think we are not taking Hugh for granted.
You're fucking kidding me.
I think, you know what? The last 10 minutes have convinced me otherwise.
What is going on? Yeah.
You know what? If you just take the film out of it, you take the script, if you take the film out of it, Hugh Grant is great in this film, and Alan Rickman is really good as well.
It's true.
So I think if you only watched it for Alan Rickman, Hugh Grant, you're coming away actually all right. Like,
oh my word!
I'm just gonna leave it at that because otherwise I'm gonna change my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Oh mate, I can't believe this is happening. I mean, because I do, we're on this same wave together. I do feel this weird now love of it because, like you say, if you just take the film out of it and you just now watch it for the fan cam that it is of Alan Rickman, it's bloody brilliant. But no, I'm going to stick to my guns here. Fucking shit film. Like so bad that it's confusing at the beginning. And not in like a good way. Not like when you're watching Moon or, I don't know, Ex Machina or something. Watching it and you're like, oh, I don't really know what's going on, but isn't this enticing? It's just shit. There's no hook. A lot of the acting is bad. I know it's supposed to be in areas, but a lot of it is really bad. Hugh Grant is great, sure. Alan Rickman's hot as fuck. Yeah, love you, daddy. But apart from that, the film sucks. It's a weird vibe with no reason or fun to it. And I think it should be confined. The problem is I won't say it should be locked away and confined and never seen again by anyone, because we want the fan cam. We want to see Alan packing Daddy Rickman in it. So yeah, we can't be too mean about it. And actually, this really does bump it up quite high now. I think Bengali Night's still rubbish. Restoration's still crap. This is quite a few films above that. Actually, we'll have to reevaluate the list. So there you go.
There we go. I mean, I can't say I disagree with you, but
Stick to your guns, mate.
It's a split decision. Believe it or not.
Listen, the TikTok fam, they're gonna love us for that. They'll be like, fair enough.
We need to we'll post our episode in the chat on YouTube, and
yes,
it's gonna pop off.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. If you've just come from there, hello, we're calling you out. If it's you, Olivia, who I just read your comment of, hello, and please do stick around. And also, if you're into TikTok and all that stuff, why don't you follow us on some of the other social medias? At Taking Hugh for Granted on Facebook and Instagram, at Taking Hugh on Twitter. Maybe we'll post some Alan Rickman fan cams for you on there. How about that? Most of the fan cams we've got are Hugh Grant, but maybe we can make an exception. That's fine for you.
I believe so. And I mean, to be honest, we should probably get into the TikTok world, but we haven't dealt. I feel like that is opening a can of worms.
It certainly is. I let me tell you right now, I follow a lot of Hugh Grant accounts on there already. Hugh Talk is already doing some great work out there. Shout out to you, Hugh Talk. Yeah, there's already some great stuff on there. And I know that superfan Mary Fran is already on top of a lot of that stuff. Mary's out there liking all that stuff. She knows what's up. And so, yeah, check out Hugh Grant TikTok. It is a thing. It's people filming him in Pret. It's people making fan cams, all that sort of stuff. People pretending to be him, as we've seen from that guy who pretends to be him and Keira Knightley. There's a whole range of content on there. And, yeah, maybe we've got to dip our toes in there and see what we can find. How exciting. Wow.
Well, it's a good point to leave the episode, I think.
I think so.
It's a big thank you to everyone who listened, and a big thank you to you, as always, Diggory.
Oh, thanks, mate. Big thank you to you as well. I hope we've made ourselves feel a little bit better about England.
I feel better.
I feel better. I feel better now I've seen Daddy Alan Rickman. What a perfect place to end. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Taking Hugh for Granted is produced, edited and presented by Diggory Waite and Oscar Beardmore Gray. The producers of Taking Hugh for Granted would like to state that this podcast is in no way associated with the actor Hugh John Mungo Grant, nor does it endorse his views or represent him in any way. Instead, by creating this podcast, Oscar and Diggory hope to celebrate Hugh's illustrious career, reliving his old classics and shedding light on some of his hidden gems. Hugh, if you're listening, we hope you approve.